Welcome to The Ride, also known as the A Train Sports Talk video stream podcast with your host, Anthony Smith. Let's welcome him in.
Yeah, that's right. Had to do something a little bit different there, y'all. Oh my goodness. How are y'all feeling on a Saturday? Let me see here. It is 11:43. It's almost Saturday afternoon, so we have about 17 minutes left on the morning side of noontime. And I told you I was going to be back again today because we got the scoreboard show. And this time is win in advance, lose and go home, or in some instances, you stay home, as was the case in some games last night. And you know how we do it? We start out with 6A, and there were some games played Thursday night, Friday night, and I'm looking at possibly there might even be some Saturday games on schedule, but I don't see any. So we're just gonna go with Thursday and Friday games, and we're gonna get things kicked off here with 6A as we always do, as we've been doing throughout the season when we do the show. Uh, Next week, I'm going to give you the brackets and who's going to be playing where, and I might, to some extent, let you know who's going to be playing next week anyway, only on a abbreviated way of doing things. So, uh, especially around here in the area, the Wichita area schools, you will know who's playing where next week. So, like I say, there were some games, and one of them on my show, I called it yesterday, but we will get to that a little bit later. But let's go ahead and run down these scores, starting out with 6A. The games that were played on Thursday, there were four games. Olathe Northwest ended Kansas City Wyandottes season to the tune of 63-0. Shawnee Mission Northwest was in a shootout with Lawrence pulling out a 50-40 victory. In another shootout sort of game, Olathe West handled business at home against Shawnee Mission North by the score of 63-42. And Gardner Edgerton, one of those teams you have to watch out for, cruised past Shawnee Mission West by the score of 56-21. Now moving into the Friday night slate of games, Olathe South defeats Blue Valley Northwest by the score of 35-20. Blue Valley West went on the road to take on Shawnee Mission East in another high-scoring affair. Came out victorious by the score of 42-35. Manhattan, playing host to Garden City, ended Garden City's season by the score of 47-15. Wichita Northwest had no problems disposing of Hayesville campus by the score of 57-14. Olathe East traveled to Lawrence Free State and came away with a defeat as Lawrence State wins that game in another high-scoring game, 61-47. Feel like offenses is not having an issue in some of these games. Olathe South played host to Shawnee Mission South. Olathe North played host to Shawnee Mission South, and they came away with a 28-7 victory. Derby shut out Topeka High 49-0. And in a game that I actually called, here's the one I'm telling you about. They played them last week in a closely contested game, and my prediction was that this team would win this game in the rematch, thus kickstarting their second season. This would be a team I probably wouldn't want to face. Wichita East, back on the road, familiar territory, Dodge City, this time when it counted the most. Wichita East comes away with a 27-18 victory. And for the type of season they've had, one that was less than what they expected to this, I have to applaud them for this. A team I think they may be facing, I'm not sure. No, let me I'll wait till we get the brackets out. But another area team came away with a victory, and it was a hard fought victory. And this is their second shutout that I know of, which they won by a one score game. Wichita Southeast, that's right. The Buffalo Stampede is still going as they shut out Wichita Heights 7-0. Mays still flying high as they soared all over Wichita North by the score of 76-0. Washburn Rural shut out Wichita South, another team that underperformed this year, one that we were expecting great things from. Washburn Rural 27-37. Wichita South 0. And Junction City could not pitch the shutout, but they came away with the victory as they rolled past Wichita West by the score of 55-7. And those are your scores in Class 6A. What I am going to do, though, is I am going to take a quick look before I move any farther as some of the area teams here. Wichita Southeast will be on the road next week to take on Manhattan, which will really test them. And I'm just going to go on record and say it like this without making any predictions. Manhattan might not know what they're getting into with this Southeast team. This Southeast team has proven that they can put points on the board, but they've also shown that they have a defense that can lock you down, as evident by their shutout last night. They had another shutout game earlier during the year when they took on Topeka High. And Southeast just proves that even if the offense isn't clicking, we can hang our hat on defense. Third game, here's how Southeast season is gone. They started out with a 22-20 victory over Wichita South. They lost to Bishop Carroll 33-6, and then went on the road to hostile territory and pitched a shutout, a 6-0 shutout against Topeka High. And I believe that in essence got their season rolling. They end up knocking off Heights by the score of 35-14. So to see the score last night, that doesn't surprise me. There was a lot of pride on the line. And even though Heights season came to an end and probably didn't go the way they wanted things to go, it just proves that you have to bring your A game. And Heights was gunning for Southeast. They wanted to play the spoiler. Southeast had that defense and didn't let them cross that end zone. Also looking at some more of Southeast schedule. They lost to Cape and Mount Carmel. That score was 49-6. But they come back and beat a team that's pretty much known as 6A, Garden City. Beat them by the score of 21-10. That's what you call one of those signature wins. In other words, they didn't let the Capen game beat them twice. Then they rolled past Wichita West by the score 53-0. And of course, they steamrolled Wichita North 64-0, which led to their game last night against Heights, which they won that game 7-0. So as you can see right there, 3 shutouts in a row. So Manhattan most definitely will have to bring their A game because this Southeast defense, I believe, is their signature. So now let me get back into the scores. We gave you 6A. And now what we're going to do, we are going to make the transition into 5A. And let me see here as I'm looking at this. There we go. 5A scores. There were some Thursday games. And this, you can consider it a shootout as well, too, as Goddard Eisenhower traveled to Hayes. And Hayes is a team you better keep your eye on. But Hayes, playing host to Goddard Eisenhower in somewhat of a shootout, comes away victoriously with a 49-30 victory. St. Thomas Aquinas also posted 49 points, shutting out Kansas City Turner. Then an area game, Maize South versus Goddard. Goddard squeaks out a 3-point victory over Maize South by the score of 27-24. And Bishop Carroll, still playing, first year coach, gets past Valley Center by the score of 14-0. Those were the Thursday games. Now for the Friday games. Mill Valley playing host to Blue Valley. A battle of the valleys. Mill Valley comes out ahead 35-16. Blue Valley North went on the road to take on Kansas City, Washington, and walked out with a 49-18 victory. Baser Linwood playing host to Blue Valley Southwest. There are a whole lot of Blue Valleys with different directions. Baser Linwood comes out with a 28-10 victory. DeSoto travels to Topeka Highland Park, and they were not gracious guests as they walk away with a 49-16 victory. Hutch playing host to Emporia shuts them out 34-0. Spring Hill steamrolls past Kansas City Harmon 74-0. Great Bend cruises past Newton 49-14. Leavenworth gets a 10-point victory over Pittsburgh by the score of 32-22. Salina South comes into Andover and ends their season by the score of 24-20. St. James Academy playing host to Shawnee Heights cruises past them by the score of 57-28. Liberal cruises past Topeka Seaman 41-17. And the Mustangs from Salina Central gallop their way past Topeka West by the score of 68-22. There is your look at 5A. Now we move in to Class 4A. There was only one game on Thursday night as Kansas City Piper mauled Kansas City Schlegel by the score of 59-6. Andover Central on a journey to try to repeat as 4A champs got off on a good start, cruising past Abilene 35-7. Wellington playing host to Ark City comes away with a 37-20 victory. Augusta traveled to McPherson and tamed the Bullpups by the score of 33-20. Bishop Miege went to Atchison and just mauled them on their home field by the score of 57-7. Lebec County playing host to Bonner Springs, no problem, 56-12. Eudora comes away with a 56-6 victory, 56-6 victory over Coffeyville. Capon playing host to El Dorado. Oh my God, I feel sorry for this program. I really do. But at least they got on the scoreboard this year. And that was one of the things I was looking at. One of those schools that you look at what's going on with them and you're wondering what is the mental psyche of these young men with what they had to endure on the playing field. And you never know what they have to endure around their peers. And one of my things was I hope they at least score some points because there's El Dorado season, if I can kind of detour, started off with a 104-0 beatdown at the hands of Andale. And then after that, their next 3 or 4 games, they couldn't score a point. Then finally they scored a touchdown. Then the next game, I think they scored 2 touchdowns. They didn't win any games this season, but they scored some points. And one of my battle cries was get on the scoreboard, cross the end zone, see what that feels like. Hopefully during the off season, next year they'll be one of those surprise teams like, wait a minute, this is the team that couldn't score. Now they're beating everybody. Those things do happen. So I want to say I wish El Dorado's football program nothing but the best. Hope they can resurrect that program because there have been some named players go through that school. But once again, last night, Cape and Mount Carmel, no problem beating El Dorado by the score of 63-0. Another shutout, Tonganoxie playing host to Fort Scott comes away with a 45-0 victory. Bueller cruises past Independence 52-22. Paola 69. KC Sumner Academy 12. Ottawa gets the shutout against Lansing 14-0. Chinook squeaks by Lewisburg to continue their season with a 29-28 victory. Mulvane just mauled Towanda Circle by the score of 47-0. And the Rose Hill Rockets blasted Ulysses by the score of 36-13. And Wamego, no problem with Winfield. Final count, Wamego 50. Winfield 14. That's your look at 4A. Now, we're going to take a look at 3A. There were some Thursday games as well. Starting things off, Prairie View dominates Burlington by the score of 48-6. Andale shuts out Chapman 69-0. Is there any team in 3A that can stop Andale? I think the only thing that happened when Andale was defeated, it just ignited a bigger monster within them. Andale is one of those teams I think can move up to 4A, possibly 5A. I'm going to say this. I'm going to go on record and say this. And some people may disagree with me on this, but I'm pretty sure those who have a keen eye on high school football in the state of Kansas, especially around here in the Wichita area and surrounding areas, I will say this, and I will mean every word that I say. Andale could play in the City League, and they would be a top 3 team. Let me say that again. Andale can play in the City League. And I'm talking playing against 5A and 6A competition. And they would be a top 3 team. Put that out there. Put my name on that. I said it. I mean it. Of course, now, if that were to happen, I'm pretty sure Class 3A would definitely applaud not seeing Andale in Class 3A. This would be the response. But be that as it may, Andale, defending 3A champs, in a quest to start another streak of reeling off consecutive state titles, started in resounding fashion once again, shutting out Chapman 69-0. And here's another shutout: Rock Creek 56, Smoky Valley 0. And we're going to keep the shutout streak going as Wellsville blanks Parsons by the score of 50-0. Now for the Friday games. Jefferson West 45, Anderson County 6. Frontenac 55, Bishop Ward, you guessed it, 6. Pratt The Greenbacks from Pratt, 42, Chaparral 14. Holcomb cruises past Colby by the score of 53-20. Topeka Hayden, that's that one team that might be in the way of Andale. Might. Topeka Hayden, 70. Columbus, 7. Cheney, their season is still going on as they cruise past Concordia, 36-0. Just think about that. Two coaches, Shelby Wehrman and Coach Schmidt, Dylan Schmidt at Andale. Those are two of your great coaches in that classification alone. Baldwin traveled, no, Houghton traveled to Baldwin and cruises to a 54-12 victory. Girard taking care of home, cruises past Neodesha by the score of 35-8. Santa Fe Trail, in a hard-fought battle against Perry Lecompton, comes away with a 20-14 victory. Santa Fe Trail is one of those teams I believe is undefeated as well too, so they're trying to keep their streak going. Clay Center, 47. Scott City, 29. Hugoton, 35. Wichita Collegiate, 30. Ending collegiate season. Heston, 35. Wichita Trinity, 0. That concludes Class 3A. Now we are going to turn our attention to Class 2A. In 2A, there was a plethora of games on Thursday nights. Atchison County traveled to Eureka and comes away with a 31-0 victory. Council Grove went into Central Heights. I'm pretty sure Central Heights don't want to see Council Grove no more, as Council Grove comes away with a 67-0 victory. Garden Plain, those Isles of Garden Plain looking to be 2A champs, got off on the right foot last night as they cruised past Douglas 56-14. Caney Valley 44, Galena 12, Sabetha 48, Humboldt 0, Haven 44, Kingman 31. Southeast Upsaline, the defending 2A champs. Who's going to dethrone them? We just have to wait and see if that happens. Steamrolled Southwestern Heights by the score of 74-0. But as if that wasn't enough, Nemaha Central said, we're going to do you one better. They shut out West Franklin 80-0. So now we move into the Friday games. And the shutouts continue to roll on, just not to that magnitude, as Riverton shuts out Cherryville 26-0. Hillsboro squeaks out a 1-point victory over Ellsworth by the score of 18-17. Hoisington cruises past Halstead by the score of 74-24. Beloit shuts out Lakin by the score of 50-0. Osage County, no, Phillipsburg comes up 1 point short of 50, but the result was the same. They shut out Minneapolis 49-0. And Osage City, not wanting to be outdone, they get the shutout too over Royal Valley by the score of 35-0. Russell, though, travels into Cimarron and comes out with a 25-14 victory. And Silver Lake cruises past St. Mary's, ending their season by the score of 29-8. Also, in non-playoff games, we have Norton over Larned by the score of 56-14. Fredonia cruises past Leon Bluestem by the score of 50-8. Lions travel to Belle Plaine and walks away with a 26-18 victory. And Riley County cruises past Oskaloosa by the score of 74-16. And there is 2A for you. And now we are about to transition into 1A. And also, we're looking here at Thursday games, Friday games, and non-playoff games. So let's start with the Thursday games, which saw Inman squeak out a 1-point victory over Conway Springs, bringing their season to an end by the score of 14-13. Guess you could say that was a defensive battle right there. St. Mary's Colgan blanks Donovan West by the score of 63-0. Mountain Ridge cruises past Medicine Lodge 33-7. Republic County doubles up Oakley and then some by the score of 42-0. Opie 59, Pleasanton 14. Troy traveled into Jayhawk Glen and comes away with a 30-8 victory. Thomas More Prep season continues on as they cruise past Valley Heights by the score of 36-7. And Smith Center gets the shutout over Whitewater Remington by the score of 64-0. Now for the Friday games, Sterling cruises past Harrington by the score of 63-0. Marion gets the 20-12 victory over Sacred Heart. Jefferson County North 30, McLeod 14. Rossville with the dominating shutout over Mission Valley by the score of 71-0. Centralia gets the dominating victory over Onaga by the score of 54-20. Hutch Trinity shuts out Plainville by the score of 20-0. Jackson Heights steamrolls past Southeast Cherokee 58-0. And Riverside blanks Wabansie by the score of 34-0. And for the non-playoff games, Caer Paravel 51, Uniontown 0. Pleasant Ridge 41, Horton 22. No score on Maranatha Academy in Erie. Mara Hill Mount Academy comes away with the 21-12 victory over Valley Falls. Here's a shootout for you. Reno County Homeschool 88, Stanton County 54. Sedgwick County blows out Bennington by the score of 48-6, and Ellenwood cruises past Syracuse by the score of 39-6, and that will conclude the scores in 1A. And now we will turn our attention to 8-man Division 1. In 8-man Division 1, you see here, look like all games were played on what? Nope. They had a plethora of Thursday games, and they had some non-playoff games. So all their games were played on Thursday, it looks like. So let's just dive right into this. Leoti, Wichita County cruises past Atwood, Rawlins County by the score of 52-6. Sylvan Lucas Unified picks up the victory over Central Plains by the score of 34-22. Oswego, gotta say a shout out to my good friend out there, Coach Matthew Fowler, as your boys pick up a resounding 60-26 victory over Chase County. Little River cruises past Clifton Clyde 50-18. Oberlin Decatur County 54, Ellis 8. Flint Hills 48, Cedarville Dexter 28. Kiowa County cruises past Kinsley 52-6. Hill City rolls past La Crosse by the score of 56-8. And then here go consecutive shutouts. Linden 52, Northeast Armor 0. Meade 48, Pratt Skyline 0. Madison cruises past Sedan 57-12. Lincoln shuts out Solomon 48-0. South Central 64. Spearville 6. Joaquini Trago gets the shutout over St. Francis by the score of 50-0. A shootout of proportions. Oxford 54. Sublette 42. El Saline gets the shutout 56-0 over Washington County. Now we have some non-playoff games as Quinter knocks off Hoxie by the score of 42-36. Canton Galva gets the victory over Lakeside Downs 36-20. Northern Heights cruises past West Elk 52-6. South Gray 62, Udall 16. South Sumner County gets the shutout over Gossel by the score of 50-0. Ness City gets the shutout over Stockton 64-0. And Yates Center cruises past Central Burden by the score of 62-16. Now, what I'm going to do right here, I'm actually going to take a little brief break, which means I'm going to be off screen for a minute, but I will be back. So don't you go nowhere. All right, we welcome you back. Sorry about that abrupt break like that. Sometimes those things happen. That was actually a first. But we're back and we gave you 8-man division one. Oh, yes, there will be a commercial drop right there. So, in case you're wondering, yes, there will be a commercial drop right there. Uh, gave you 8-man division one. Now we're going to give you 8-man division two. And if time permits, after I give you the 6-man scores, after I give you 8-man division two, I would probably get into KCAC, probably most likely talk about Friends University because that is the hot ticket in town. The only college football game in town. Got to show some love to the Friends Falcons. Uh, they're playing today down at what they call that now, Equity Bank Stadium, home of the Wichita Wind Surge. So if you are here in the area and watching this live right now, game time I believe is at 1 o'clock. I'm gonna try to get you out of here in time so you can get down there. So just bear with me. But now we're looking at 8-man division two scores. And a team that's on a quest who suffered their first loss in 59 games when they lost to Hanover a few weeks ago is on a quest, though, to claim another championship. Axtell gets things started with a 50-0 victory over Beloit St. John's Tipton. Rural Vista wanted to do one better, so they shut out Colony Crest by the score of 51-0. Dighton gets credit with a 1-0 victory over Deerfield, which means that was a forfeit. Hodgman County, let the shutouts continue, gets a 45-0 victory over Fairfield. And Martin Valley don't want to be left out of the shutout party, so they pitched the shutout over Hartford by the score of 48-0. Lebo couldn't keep the shutout train going, so they beat St. Paul by the score of 50-8. However, Victoria picked up the shutout over Norwich by the score of 56-0. Hanover, the team that gave Axtell its lone defeat in 59 games, gets a 58-6 victory over Osborne. Logan Palco cruises past Satanta by the score of 54-6. Argonia Attica, say that real fast 3 times, cruises past St. John by the score of 68-28. Hutchinson Central Christian shuts out Stafford 54-0. Lynn cruises past Wakefield 68-18. Burlingame cruises past Waverly 54-6. And Mineola, no problem with Wheatland Grinnell, comes away with a 48-18 victory. And Sharon Springs, Wallace County had a bye and looked like the only game I'm showing for a Friday was Frankfort 38 over Thunder Ridge 36. So they squeaked out a 2-point victory. And for these non-playoff games, looked like Century Lost Springs had an open date. However, Pretty Prairie comes away with a 50-42 victory over Maxville, and Blue Valley Randolph squeaks past Pike Valley. That rounds out 8-man Division II. And yes, we're not through. We also have 6-man. That's right. 6-man is now sanctioned in the state of Kansas, and they too will be playing for a state title. And they had games on Thursday as well as Friday. Starting with the Thursday games, Rolla forfeited, therefore Garden Plains gets credit with the 1-0 victory. Pawnee Heights steamrolls past Tri-Plains Brewster 83-6. Moscow shuts out Western Plains Healy 46-0. And as I look at 6-man, I see a list of byes. I see a forfeit. Southern Coffee County gets credit with the 1-0 victory over Chase due to forfeit. And there are no scores to give you in 6-man as these following schools: Chitopa, Chelan, Cunningham, Ingalls, Marias des Ceigneurs Valley, Northern Valley, Otis Bison, Peabody Burns, South Barber, Tescott, and Weskin all had byes. So there's your scoreboard show. Next week, I will give you the brackets. Who's playing who where. However, what I am going to do right here, I am going to go back to 6A and pull up some teams in the area. That way you'll know who your school is playing. So, first school I'm going to look at is Wichita East. Once again, congrats to them guys. Because I know for a fact this season is not what they expected. But also, by them winning that game last night, that means their season is over 500. But who does East High have next week? Trust me, you won't have to travel that far. Wichita East will be traveling to Mays to take on the number one ranked team in Class 6A. But I think the last 2 weeks have really tested East High's mentality. Are they up for the challenge? I would like to believe that they are. Do I think it's going to be a closely contested game? I'm going to say there's a possibility. However, when you look at this Mays team, they have been undaunted and unfazed by anybody that you put in front of. And I'm still saying this, and I will continue to say this. Mays' season turned around last year when they inserted Brandon Maivella as quarterback, and the team really haven't looked back. Their season started at the same time Mays South season derailed. It was in that rivalry game. Mays South was riding pretty high. Mays was trying to get their identity. That jump started their season a year ago and sent Mays South into somewhat of a tailspin. Mays hasn't looked back, and now you're looking at them as the number one ranked team in Class 6A. But do I think it's going to be a competitive game? By all means, yes. East High's proven, hey, we went on the road. We knocked off Dodge City. This is the same team that beat us the week prior to. Once again, it's a situation where East High has nothing to lose but another game to gain. However, I'm pretty sure Mays will be ready for it. So once again, I don't have no score prediction, but I think it's going to be closer than most people will expect. So once again, Mays High, East High, in Mays, Kansas, next Friday. I believe kickoff time is 7 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken. So if I'm fortunate enough, I will be at a game somewhere within the area. Also, we already alluded to the fact that Wichita Southeast, they will be on the road next week going to Manhattan to take on the Indians in Manhattan. And that game right there, I said it earlier. Manhattan might not know what they're getting into. Manhattan is a perennial state power school. They're built for these moments. Southeast, this is their first time in these moments. However, I don't think Southeast is going to be intimidated. They've proven throughout the year that we are here. This is for real. And that they also hang their hat on defense. So I don't look for Manhattan to just walk all over Southeast. As a matter of fact, this Manhattan team has taken a few bumps along the road. They suffered a home loss to Junction City, something that is rare for them to lose at home. Then they traveled into Northwest, and Northwest pretty much manhandled them. Southeast, all I can say is this would be a signature victory for that program. And I don't know how the brackets shape up, but let's play hypothetical for a minute. Southeast up and coming. East High, even though they've had a down year the last couple of years, they've been a contender to where when you talk about them, they can win the league title. Matter of fact, Coach Acton year before last, I believe, was Coach of the Year in the Greater Wichita Athletic League, and rightfully deserved it, even though there may have been some whispers. But back in my day, the big rival games were Southeast Capon, Southeast East High. Can you imagine what it would be like if these two schools were to meet square off? Just a thought. Also, want to take a look at Wichita Northwest, as once again they beat Hayesville campus by the score of 57-14 last night. So who will they be taking on next week? Well, we're about to find that out as Northwest will be taking on Washburn Rural. And I'm pretty sure Coach Martin has those guys focused. And my question is this going to be the Northwest team that finally gets over that hump and brings that title back to the city? Coach Martin has won city titles, but the one title that is eluding him is that 6A title. And it's not because the teams haven't been talented. They just happen to run up against teams that were better that particular day. And even though Northwest has one loss on their record, I'm pretty sure they feel like they should be riding with an undefeated season. But hey, those things happen. But I think it refueled their focus. Their loss came to Cape and Mount Carmel. It was a 42-43 loss in overtime. And yes, Northwest did suffer some injuries in that game. Nothing catastrophic, but and I'm pretty sure they're not using it as an excuse either. But hey, injuries are a part of the game. Next man up. They let a 28-0 lead slip away, and I'm pretty sure the players keep that in the back of their mind. And that's what's fueling their fire. So what did they do after they lost that game to Capon? Well, they came back and they beat West by the score of 76-7. But for Northwest to really feel something, I believe it was the 40-13 beatdown that they put on Manhattan. Why was that game so important to them? Because Manhattan has been a team that has given Northwest fits over the last couple of years. Now they get that victory. Now the mind shift starts to change. If we can beat this program, then there's not a team we can't beat. And I'm not saying that out of an arrogant state of mind, but it gives you that confidence knowing that this is one of the premier teams in the state. This is one of the teams that you measure yourself by. We beat them. Now we know we can beat anybody else. We just got to go out and do it. So, looking forward to that Wichita Northwest Washburn Rural game. Matter of fact, if you're watching this live stream or you get to check out the podcast, do me a favor, drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know who you rooting for. What team do you want to see win? Who do your children play for? Who do your grandchildren play for? Maybe your great grandchildren. Yes, I want some interaction. I want some feedback. Let me know what team you're rooting for. Show your school spirit. By all means, I will welcome that. Anyway, what I want to do right now, if I can do that, I want to take a look at Friends University as they have a game set which will be starting here soon. 1 o'clock is kickoff time. So I'm going to give you as much as I can on them. Because like I said, it's the only game, the only college football game in town. Right now, they are the number 4 ranked team in NAIA. And what I want to do is I want to go back to this particular report right here because Friends had to go on the road last week. Mind you, the week before they had already played a nationally ranked team in McPherson who came in undefeated. Then they have to go on the road for a second consecutive NAIA top 20 victory. So it was another week, another NAIA 20 win for the number 4 ranked Friends University Falcons. This time a 42-28 victory at number 15 ranked Southwestern College in Winfield, Kansas. Last week, it was the Falcons rallying from their biggest deficit since 2023 in a 56-32 homecoming victory over then number 20 ranked McPherson College, a game I happened to be in attendance of. So here are some of the takeaways from the game. Out the gates quick. Falcons wasting no time taking control as Southwestern scoring the game's first 21 points that included 2 touchdown passes from Wichita's own Cavante Baker. What can we say about him? He is that guy. Now, notice here, they get out the gates quick. The week before, they get out the gate slow as the Bulldogs from McPherson, as we could say, the dogs came barking and they came out ahead with a 14-0 margin. But Friends found their way back. So, yeah, contrast to 2 different games. One game a slow start, next game they get out fast. So that was out the gates quick. But the closing punch, as quickly as the Falcons opened the game, their final push was just as strong. 3 times, the Bulldogs closed within 1 possession, and on each occasion, the next point scored went by Falcons. After Southwestern climbed within 35-28 and still 9:20 left, the Falcons went on perhaps their most critical drive of the season and drove 72 yards on 11 plays while eating more than 7 minutes off the clock, with Baker finally scoring from 1 yard out with less than 2 minutes left in the game. The Falcon defense then emphatically closed out the victory with sacks from Jario Castillo and Talon Garland on consecutive plays on 3rd and 4th down to end the Builders' last possession. The Lopez breakout. There have been multiple Falcons with career high rushing days this season, and Michael Lopez joined that list at Southwestern with a career high 126 yards on 11 carries. You get the picture here. You just can't key in on stopping one guy for Friends University. Why? Because just when you think you have that one bottled up, you got another one. They have that dominant offensive line full of all Americans, all conference players. You have Cavante Baker, and then whoever he decides to hand it off to. You just can't key in on one running back. And the crazy thing is, this offensive juggernaut is built on the ground. You know what's coming before they do it, but yet it can't be stopped. However, the end zone isn't a one-way street. Under Coach Terry Harrison, the Falcons have been the NAIA's best rushing team, leading the nation in rushing yards all 3 years and on track to comfortably do so again. But in last Saturday's key KCAC Bissell division at Southwestern, it was 2 touchdown passes from Baker that accounted for 2 of the Falcons' first 3 scores in jumping out to a 21-0 lead. Notice that. 2 passing. So yes, he can still kill you through the air. You're so focused on the ground game, and you forget they do have a passing attack when needed, and you never know when that's coming because they ground and pound you with regularity. The 2 touchdown passes tie a career high for Baker. The historic beginning continues. The Falcons begin the season 8-0 for the first time since 2008. Friends has also won its first 2 KCAC Bissell Division games and now control its own destiny for a second straight conference division title. Up next, which is today, Falcons will face a team that's receiving votes, Kansas Wesleyan University at Equity Bank Park, home of the Wichita Wind Surge. So you have approximately, if you're watching this, 21 minutes to get to the ballpark. I do believe there's a website where you can purchase the tickets. If you want to see some good quality college football at an affordable price, I recommend going to go check out Friends University. You will not be disappointed. Well, that has been another edition of The Ride. Hope you have enjoyed today's show as much as I've enjoyed being your conductor. Next week, we look forward to breaking down the brackets, who's playing who and where at, as we're now in the midst of high school football playoff season. Win in advance, lose and go home or stay home. Until the next time, take care of yourself and each other. Don't forget, those tickets are reusable because they're free. Ride is never a charge for it. Until next time, I'm out.